You were not born to be a servant of your emotions, nor a slave to the noise of the world. You were born to command yourself to rule the invisible kingdom of thought from which all destiny is made. There is no throne more powerful, no empire more enduring than the one built within the disciplined mind of an individual who has mastered himself. All wealth, all peace, all greatness is first conceived in the silence of that mastery. And every downfall, every failure, every tragedy begins with its opposite, the loss of control within. Man's true labor is not his occupation, nor his trade, nor his profession. His true labor is the shaping of his inner world. For as you think, you become. As you feel, you create. And as you respond to life, so life responds to you. The one who has not yet mastered his emotions cannot be trusted with his vision. The one who cannot command his thoughts cannot command his circumstances. The one who cannot remain calm in adversity will destroy his fortune when it finally comes. It is a bitter truth, but a liberating one. Success is not earned through mere effort, it is built through inner construction. The man who works harder on himself than he does on his job becomes the architect of his own fate. For while the world pays you for what you do, the universe rewards you for what you are. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, who is truly in control of you? Is it your mind or your moods? Is it your reason or your reactions? You may appear disciplined in the world, punctual, productive, polished, yet inside. You may still be a creature of impulses, swayed by every wave of approval, every gust of doubt, every whisper of fear. And so long as that is true, your life will remain at the mercy of the external. To master the external world, you must first master the inner one. This is the law of all achievement, the principle upon which every empire of power has been built. For what is power if not the organized direction of one's own energy? And what is weakness if not the diffusion of that energy through emotion, confusion, and fear? Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is control. It is the ability to remain centered while others lose themselves. It is the calm awareness that every situation, every insult, every obstacle is neutral until you decide what it means. To the undisciplined mind, life appears chaotic. To the disciplined, it is perfectly ordered, for he sees that he himself is the cause of his conditions. The difference between the average and the extraordinary is this. The average man reacts, the extraordinary responds. Reaction is born of emotion, response is born of principle. Reaction is slavery, response is power. Reaction is the child of fear, response is the offspring of understanding. And until you learn to respond rather than react, you remain an apprentice in the workshop of life. You must understand, the mind is a workshop. It is here that every fortune is manufactured, every ruin designed, every dream assembled piece by piece. Within this invisible factory, your thoughts are the raw material, your emotions the tools, and your will the craftsman. If the tools are wild, if the craftsman is weak, the product will be chaos. But if the tools are disciplined and the craftsman focused, the result will be mastery. The first rule of mastery is awareness. You cannot command what you do not observe. You cannot reform what you do not recognize. Watch yourself, therefore, with the eye of a scientist. When anger arises, do not justify it, study it. When fear whispers, do not obey, listen and trace its source. When doubt appears, do not resist it, understand it. For in awareness, emotion loses its tyranny. The moment you see clearly, you begin to rule. Understand this well. Emotions are not enemies. They are forces. They are the raw power of life itself, and their energy, properly harnessed, becomes genius. But when ungoverned, that same energy becomes destruction. The same fire that can warm your home can burn it to ashes if it escapes control. The wise man channels his emotions as an engineer channels electricity, directing every spark toward productive ends. Most people live as prisoners of reaction. They believe themselves victims of mood and circumstance. Their happiness depends on applause, their confidence on comfort, their motivation on reward. Such a life is fragile, for what is given by the world can be taken by it. But the man who rules himself, whose calm is unshaken by outcome, becomes untouchable. He has discovered the secret Napoleon Hill, called peace of mind through power of mind. If you would command destiny, you must learn the art of deliberate thinking. Every thought is a seed, and every emotion is the soil in which it grows. To plant wisely is to live wisely. Your thoughts of fear yield weeds of limitation. Your thoughts of courage yield trees of achievement. The gardener of the mind does not allow random seeds to take root. He chooses his thoughts with precision and guards them with vigilance, for every mind left unattended becomes a jungle, and every jungle chokes its own potential. Hill once wrote, "You are the master of your fate, the captain of your soul, because you have the power to control your thoughts." This is not poetry, it is science. Thought is energy, and energy, when directed with purpose, shapes matter. To think clearly is to create deliberately. To feel deeply but not be ruled by feeling is to rise above the chaos of the crowd. The disciplined thinker is not emotionless. He is emotion's commander. He feels but does not drown. He observes but does not identify. He chooses but is not possessed. This balance between passion and control is the secret equilibrium of power. It is what separates the dreamer from the achiever, the visionary from the victim. And so we arrive at the first law of inner mastery, the law of mental neutrality. This law states that no external event has inherent power over you until you assign it meaning. The world is neutral. Your interpretation is the voltage that animates it. The man who reacts emotionally gives away his energy. The man who remains neutral preserves it. It is that preserved energy that later becomes his strength, his clarity, his creative force. When you remain mentally neutral, you are not denying emotion. You are redirecting it. You say to the world, "You may act as you will, but I will determine what it means." You reclaim authorship of your experience. The moment you do so, you cease to be a pawn of circumstance and become its designer. The greatest power you can possess is calmness under fire. For calmness is not the absence of emotion, it is emotion under command. It is composure that confuses the chaotic and attracts the disciplined. Men of weak mind seek comfort. Men of strong mind seek control. One avoids difficulty. The other converts difficulty into dominance. When emotion rages and the crowd panics, the calm man becomes king, for he alone can think. And thinking pure, precise, disciplined thinking is the greatest weapon ever forged by man. Every fortune begins as a thought made definite, and every failure as a thought neglected. Thought is the sculptor, and emotion the clay. If the sculptor's hand trembles, the form collapses. But if the hand is steady, the masterpiece emerges. To work harder on yourself than you do on your job means this: you must spend more energy mastering the instrument than performing the song. Your mind is the instrument. Your emotions are its strings. Your purpose is the melody. If your strings are out of tune, if your emotions are uncontrolled, your performance will always be distorted, no matter how skilled your hands. The world rewards harmony, not noise. Every great achiever in history understood this secret. The warrior before battle silences his fear. The philosopher before writing disciplines his thoughts. The leader before commanding others commands himself. The man who would conquer the world must first conquer his mind. Until then, every victory will be temporary, every success fragile, every achievement poisoned by inner unrest. Do not be deceived. The greatest danger to your progress is not external resistance, but internal weakness. The world cannot defeat a man who refuses to be disturbed. Circumstances bow before one who refuses to yield his peace. There is no opponent more formidable than the man who has mastered his own reactions, for he cannot be manipulated, intimidated, or broken. The weak believe that emotion is authenticity. The wise know it is volatility. Emotion has its place. It gives flavor to experience, energy to vision, and passion to action. But left unchecked, it blinds reason and bends will. Therefore, your task is not to kill emotion, but to govern it, to make it serve, not rule. This is the essence of true freedom, not the liberty to feel everything, but the power to choose what to feel. The mind that governs emotion becomes a fortress. It stands unmoved by insult, unshaken by praise, untouched by chaos. It acts with precision because it sees with clarity. Such a mind is not empty of feeling, it is full of power. It does not fight against life. It shapes life through choice. When you begin to master detachment, the world changes. What once provoked you now amuses you. What once frightened you now informs you. What once controlled you now serves you. This is not arrogance, it is awareness. You begin to see that every emotion is a messenger, not a master. You read its message and let it pass. You keep your center, and thus you keep your power. The undisciplined chase power in the outer world: status, wealth, admiration. The disciplined build power in the inner world: patience, self-command, purpose. And soon, the outer bends to the inner, for external power is a reflection of internal order. As Hill said, whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. But belief is impossible without mental control. And mental control is impossible without emotional detachment. The man who cannot control himself cannot be trusted with success. For success magnifies everything, both mastery and weakness. It multiplies your thoughts into results, your habits into destiny. Therefore, if you do not first discipline your emotions, success will only expose and accelerate your chaos. But if you are calm, if you are focused, if you are internally governed, success will amplify your greatness. Your first and highest duty is to yourself, not in selfishness, but in self-construction. The more powerful your mind, the more powerful your service. The more disciplined your emotions, the greater your influence. You do not change the world by reacting to it. You change it by mastering yourself and acting from principle, not passion. If you are to rise above mediocrity, begin here. Sit alone in silence and observe the machinery of your mind. Watch your thoughts as clouds passing through the sky. Watch your emotions as waves rising and falling in the ocean. Realize that you are neither the cloud nor the wave, you are the observer of both. And once you recognize this, nothing can enslave you again. Self-discipline is the master key to all higher worlds of success. Without it, talent decays, genius collapses, and opportunity passes unseen. The man who has not yet conquered himself is still an apprentice in the workshop of destiny. He may dream, he may wish, he may even strive, but until he learns to harness the full machinery of his inner life, he remains divided, and division is the death of power. To discipline the mind is to unite it. To command emotion is to unify the self. And to unify the self is to summon the creative potential that shapes all achievement. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. The alignment of desire with direction, of will with wisdom, of passion with principle. You may think of discipline as restriction, but in truth it is liberation. The undisciplined man is chained by his moods. The disciplined man moves freely because he commands them. One is ruled by whim, the other by will. One drifts upon the tides of chance, the other sails with a chart and compass. The undisciplined wait for motivation, the disciplined act without it. The difference between a wish and a plan is the presence of discipline. There are three forms of discipline that determine your destiny: the discipline of thought, the discipline of emotion, and the discipline of action. The first governs what you believe. The second governs what you feel. The third governs what you do. Together, they form the trinity of mastery that every great achiever has discovered, whether consciously or intuitively. The discipline of thought begins with awareness of your mental diet. Just as the body cannot thrive on poison, the mind cannot flourish on negativity, complaint, or doubt. You must guard the gates of your mind as a sentinel guards a fortress. Every idea you allow to enter becomes a potential seed of destiny. Feed your mind on strength, on clarity, on truth, and your character will take the shape of your thoughts. Ask yourself daily, what am I allowing myself to believe? What am I allowing myself to imagine? Your beliefs are commands to your subconscious, and your imagination is the womb of creation. If you feed them confusion, you will birth chaos. If you feed them faith and order, you will birth achievement. You cannot think weakly and live strongly. You cannot dwell in defeat and rise to victory. This is why emotional detachment is essential to mental discipline, for emotion distorts perception. A mind clouded by anger sees enemies where there are none. A mind captured by fear sees obstacles where there are only steps. A mind enslaved to approval twists its purpose to please the crowd. Detachment restores clarity. It allows you to see things as they are, not as your desires or fears paint them. and clarity is the foundation of sound decision. When Napoleon Hill spoke of accurate thinking, he meant the ability to see truth uncolored by emotion. He meant the courage to separate fact from feeling, evidence from ego, cause from complaint. This is the rarest of disciplines and therefore the most rewarded. The world is ruled by those who think clearly when others panic. The fortunes of history are written by calm men in storms. The discipline of emotion is the art of transmutation, the ability to take the raw, volatile energy of feeling and direct it toward creation. Anger can destroy, but it can also drive. Fear can paralyze, but it can also sharpen awareness. Desire can enslave, but it can also inspire. The key is not to suppress emotion, but to use it, to transmute it into fuel. Every emotion has an energy signature. The wise man converts that energy into motion. The fool lets it consume him. You will discover that the mind obeys the law of substitution. You cannot eliminate a thought or feeling by force. You must replace it with another of higher vibration. When anger rises, substitute understanding. When fear whispers, substitute faith. When doubt clouds the way, substitute purpose. Energy does not vanish, it transforms. You cannot fight darkness, you can only bring light. Likewise, you cannot destroy emotion. You can only discipline it through redirection. Here lies the secret of mastery. Command through redirection, not resistance. To resist an emotion is to feed it. To fight a thought is to give it focus. The wise do not fight, they guide. They let every wave of feeling pass through the channel of will until it becomes a current of power. This is why calmness is strength. It is the conductor that channels emotion into controlled expression. When you learn to master your emotional energy, life becomes a deliberate act of creation. Your mind ceases to be a battlefield and becomes a laboratory. You begin to experiment with your own thoughts, to test, to refine, to construct. You cease reacting to circumstances and begin designing them. You realize that every external event is an opportunity to prove your control. The discipline of action completes the trinity, for without action, all thought remains vapor. The disciplined thinker does not wait for inspiration, he acts from decision. He builds routines that reflect his ideals. He honors his word to himself. He acts whether he feels like it or not. Each action performed in alignment with principle strengthens the will, just as each indulgence weakens it. Self-discipline grows in the soil of small victories. Each time you rise when you would rather rest, you add another brick to the fortress of self-control. Each time you hold your tongue when anger tempts you to speak, you reinforce the walls of calm. Each time you complete what you begin, you earn a deposit in the bank of confidence. Discipline is not forged in grand gestures, but in consistent obedience to the inner command. There is no progress without inner order. You cannot move the world if you are disorganized within. You cannot inspire others if you are unstable yourself. You cannot build wealth if you are bankrupt in focus. To master your outer affairs, you must first master the invisible architecture of your mind. If you would become unstoppable, train yourself to act from purpose, not passion. Passion burns hot and fades fast. Purpose burns steady, guided by discipline. The man of purpose wakes before dawn, works through doubt, and persists through silence. He is not governed by how he feels, but by what he has decided. Emotion changes by the hour. Purpose endures for life. Detach yourself, therefore, from the need to feel good at every moment. The world is not your entertainer, it is your mirror. It reflects your state of mind. The moment you cease demanding comfort, you gain control. The moment you cease needing approval, you gain freedom. The moment you cease fearing failure, you gain access to growth. Emotional detachment is not escape, it is engagement without enslavement. There is a law in psychology. Whatever you resist, you strengthen. Whatever you observe without resistance dissolves. To detach is to allow emotion to arise and pass without identifying with it. Observe your own anger as though it were another's. Witness your fear as though you were its teacher. Look upon your doubt as an experiment. In that instant, you step outside the storm and enter the eye of power. Your task, if you seek greatness, is to make this state of calm observation your natural state of being. For the calm mind is the creative mind. The calm mind sees solutions where others see problems. The calm mind hears intuition where others hear noise. The calm mind, above all, acts with intelligence, not impulse. Hill taught that every man must eventually come face to face with his own invisible enemy, the uncontrolled mind. Until that enemy is subdued, no external victory is secure. The battle is not against others, not against economy, not against competition. It is against the internal habits that scatter attention and drain will. The mind, once trained, becomes your greatest ally. But until trained, it is your most cunning saboteur. Your thoughts are tools, not truths. Your emotions are servants, not masters. Your habits are choices repeated, not fate imposed. This understanding is the beginning of liberty. To govern your inner world is to govern destiny itself. The law of cause and effect rules all achievement. Thought is the cause, circumstance the effect. Every condition in your life is the external printout of an internal program. To change the effect, alter the cause. You cannot manipulate results without transforming consciousness. The one who masters cause never fears effect, for he knows he creates it. Do not blame the world for reflecting what you broadcast. If you sow agitation, you will reap disorder. If you sow resentment, you will reap conflict. But if you sow clarity, confidence, and calm, you will harvest power, prosperity, and peace. As within, so without. The universe is impartial. It mirrors your mental state with mathematical precision. There is no failure for the disciplined mind, only feedback. Every obstacle reveals a weakness to be strengthened, a misunderstanding to be corrected, a habit to be refined. The man of mastery does not complain, he adjusts. He looks inward first, outward second, for he knows that until his own mind obeys him, no world will. When you begin to live by this principle, you will no longer crave control over others, for you will possess command over yourself. You will no longer need to prove your strength, for composure will be proof enough. You will no longer seek applause, for fulfillment will arise from congruence. The applause of the crowd is fleeting. The approval of conscience is eternal. Emotional detachment gives birth to confidence, not arrogance, but certainty. The certainty that no matter what happens outside, you remain unbroken inside. This is the calm courage of the disciplined mind. It does not rush to defend itself. It does not fear judgment. It acts, knowing that truth needs no witness. There is an ancient saying, "He who conquers himself is greater than he who conquers 1,000 men in battle. For the battle within is fought every hour, and its victory is eternal." Every moment you master emotion, every instant you choose response over reaction, you add another layer of strength to the armor of your mind. You must see yourself as the builder of a temple. Every disciplined thought is a stone. Every conquered emotion is mortar. Every act of will is a pillar. The temple you construct is invisible, yet it radiates through your words, your posture, your silence. Men will feel it, though they cannot name it. This is true charisma, the quiet authority of inner order. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, for your job will never exceed your level of self-command. The market rewards value, and value is the reflection of disciplined consciousness. Your income, your influence, your peace, all expand in direct proportion to your inner structure. Build yourself, and the world will follow. To be detached does not mean to be indifferent. It means to care deeply without being consumed. It means to act with full energy and zero dependency on outcome. It means to give your best and let the results unfold. The detached worker is the most effective, for he is not distracted by doubt nor seduced by praise. He works for mastery, not for validation. Let others be tossed about by emotion. Let them rage, gossip, and complain. You are not one of them. You are of a higher order, a builder of mind, a commander of spirit, a disciple of discipline. You are not here to chase comfort. You are here to command reality. The road is narrow, but it is royal. Few will walk it, for it demands self-rule. But those who do walk it become masters of every domain. They possess an inner silence that cannot be stolen, a focus that cannot be bought, and a peace that no chaos can disturb. When you reach this level of detachment, you do not escape the world, you transcend it. You become a cause unto yourself, a living embodiment of the truth. Hill spent a lifetime teaching that man's only limitation lies within his own mind. Every transformation begins with an idea, but every realization begins with belief. And belief, my friend, is not inherited, it is built word by word, thought by thought, through the daily discipline of autosuggestion. Autosuggestion is the language by which the conscious mind speaks to the subconscious, the secret channel through which thought becomes reality. Understand this: the subconscious mind is a fertile field. It never questions, it never argues, it never distinguishes truth from falsehood. It accepts whatever you plant and grows it with mathematical precision. If you feed it fear, it will yield limitation. If you feed it faith, it will yield abundance. Whatever dominates your mental conversation becomes your outer condition. Most people talk to themselves as their enemies would. They repeat their worries as mantras, their doubts as prayers. They auto-suggest failure by habit. They say, I can't, I'm tired, it's too late, I don't know how. And the subconscious loyal servant that it is says, as you command. But the disciplined mind, the detached thinker, knows the power of command. He trains himself to speak the language of certainty. He does not plead with fate, he instructs it. He does not wait for confidence, he creates it. Every morning, every night, he imprints his mind with the vision of who he must become. I am calm, I am capable, I am in control. I am the master of my emotions. I think clearly, I act decisively, I persist until I succeed. Do not underestimate the simplicity of these affirmations. Words are seeds. Repetition is rain. Over time, they break through the crust of old belief and reshape the subconscious landscape. Thought by thought, word by word, the old identity dissolves and a new self emerges, one of order, confidence, and composure. The law is simple but absolute. You become what you repeatedly tell yourself you are. If you wish to transform your world, begin with your vocabulary. Speak as a creator, not as a victim. Use words that build, not words that break. Speak only of possibilities, never of defeat. The disciplined man monitors his speech as he monitors his mind, for he knows that every idle word is a brick in the construction of his destiny. The power of autosuggestion is magnified by emotion, but here lies the paradox. Emotion is the fuel of creation, yet it must be controlled fuel. The subconscious responds most deeply to ideas charged with feeling, but feeling must be directed with purpose. To impress the subconscious, speak your affirmations with calm conviction, not frenzy. Frenzy burns energy. Conviction transmits power. The quiet voice of certainty penetrates deeper than the loud cry of desperation. Repetition imprints. Faith amplifies. Detachment preserves. You must practice all three. Repeat your command until it becomes natural. Believe it until it becomes fact. Detach from its outcome so that your mind remains calm enough to receive it. This is the triad of mental creation. If you allow doubt to mingle with your affirmations, you dilute their potency. The subconscious is literal. It acts upon whichever thought you feel most deeply, not whichever you speak most frequently. You cannot declare faith while secretly nurturing fear. One cancels the other. Therefore, emotional mastery is essential not only for peace, but for creative power. Let your emotions become your servants in this process. Use desire as fuel for persistence, not as fire for impatience. Use imagination to visualize success, not to forecast disaster. Use confidence to move forward, not to impress others. The mind under discipline becomes a lens. It focuses energy into results. Every day, you are programming your mind consciously or unconsciously. Your thoughts are suggestions. Your feelings are signals. Your habits are rituals of belief. The question is not whether you are using autosuggestion, but whether you are using it intentionally. The undisciplined mind is like a broadcasting tower left unattended. It emits confusion into the ether and receives it back multiplied. The disciplined mind broadcasts with clarity, and so reality echoes its command. Your world is a reflection of your broadcast. You must guard against emotional contamination, the subtle infiltration of external noise into your mental frequency. Every conversation, every headline, every complaint you entertain becomes a suggestion to your subconscious. Refuse to be programmed by the mediocre. Choose your mental company as carefully as you would choose your diet. Surround yourself with words that uplift, with thoughts that strengthen, with people who believe. The principle is absolute. Your subconscious moves only in the direction of your dominant emotion. Fear calls forth the circumstances it dreads. Faith calls forth the opportunities it expects. The moment you feel yourself slipping into anxiety, you must pause and ask, what am I commanding my mind to create right now? Then redirect. Replace the image. Revise the feeling. Issue a new command. This is the hidden science of success, the invisible craftsmanship behind the visible world. Every empire was first a picture in someone's mind, charged with emotion, repeated with faith, and acted upon with discipline. The weak imagine and waver. The strong imagine and decide. If you would achieve mastery, you must learn to build belief deliberately. The subconscious does not care whether your command is large or small. It obeys both. Therefore, do not insult your potential with timid thoughts. The man who says, I will triple my income, and the man who says, I can barely survive, are both correct, for each is giving his mind a command. Faith is not mystical. It is mental chemistry, the harmonizing of thought and emotion toward a definite purpose. Doubt divides energy. Faith unifies it. To believe wholly in your capacity is to direct all your forces toward a single end. That unity of mental vibration is what the world calls luck, timing, or opportunity. But in truth, it is simply the universe obeying the command of a disciplined mind. You must be ruthless with your inner language. Never permit a self-defeating phrase to remain unchallenged. Replace it instantly. If you hear yourself say, I can't, correct it to, I am learning how. If you say, I'm not ready, replace it with, I am preparing now. If you think, it's too late, declare, it is my time. Each correction is a stroke of the sculptor's chisel, refining the image of mastery in the stone of your consciousness. And remember this eternal truth. Emotion is energy, but will is direction. Together they form creation. If your emotions are wild, your energy disperses. If your will is weak, your energy stagnates. But when emotion is governed by will, and will is guided by purpose, nothing can resist you. Do not wait for the world to believe in you. The world reflects only what you believe about yourself. No one can invest in you more than you invest in your own conviction. Faith is contagious, but only when it burns first within you. The man who is sure of himself does not beg for opportunity. He magnetizes it. Detach from results, but not from responsibility. Detachment does not mean idleness. It means you perform your duty with absolute precision, but release the need to control timing or outcome. You plant the seed, you water it, you guard it, but you do not dig it up every morning to check if it has grown. That is what emotional attachment does. It kills the harvest through impatience. Work on yourself daily, your thoughts, your words, your inner dialogue, until they align with your purpose as perfectly as a compass aligns with the north. The job may change, the economy may shift, but your inner world must remain constant, for no external stability can substitute for inner stability. The man who has mastered himself can enter any environment and remain unchanged by its turbulence. He can walk into chaos and see patterns. He can hear criticism and extract insight without injury. He can face defeat and see data instead of disaster. That man will rise inevitably, because nothing can stop the one who governs himself. This is why Napoleon Hill said, if you cannot control your own mind, you cannot control anything else. Your mind is the pilot, your emotions are the engines. If the pilot is asleep, the engines crash the ship. But when the pilot is alert and the engines are obedient, you can fly through any storm. Every hour of discipline compounds. Every minute of composure builds momentum. Every second of deliberate thought rewrites the pattern of destiny. You may not see immediate results, but unseen roots are growing. Patience is the proof of faith. Continue to speak, to act, to believe, and to remain emotionally still. The storm outside is irrelevant to the calm within. The man who has achieved inner detachment has achieved ultimate leverage. He can wait without worry, act without haste, and persist without pain. He has transcended time itself, for he no longer lives in reaction, but in creation. You are the architect of this transformation. Every morning rise with the command, today I will rule my mind, my emotions, and my actions. Let that be your prayer, your creed, your declaration. For the man who commands himself commands his destiny. And if you ever doubt the power of this inner work, Look around you. Every failure you see began as mental chaos. Every success you admire began as mental order. The difference between poverty and prosperity, between despair and dominion, is not the size of opportunity, but the size of self-control. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, for your job is only a reflection of yourself. If you raise your character, your income will follow. If you strengthen your focus, your influence will grow. If you discipline your emotions, your relationships will flourish. If you master your mind, your world will obey. No force in the universe can prevent the rise of the man who has mastered his own vibration, for he no longer depends on luck or circumstance. He operates under law, the law that what is impressed upon the mind must be expressed in reality. The crowd works on tasks, the master works on consciousness. The crowd chases outcomes, the master shapes causes. The crowd fears failure, the master uses it. The crowd asks for ease, the master asks for evolution. The difference is not in opportunity, but in awareness. You are not here to chase results. You are here to become the kind of person to whom results naturally come. You do not run after success. You radiate it. You do not beg for influence. You embody it. You do not wish for control. You are control. And when that day comes, when your thoughts obey your will, your emotions serve your purpose, and your actions align with your vision, you will understand the true meaning of Hill's greatest principle, that success is not something you pursue, but something you attract by the person you become. There comes a moment when you must stop preparing and begin commanding, when thinking must become doing, when discipline must translate into decisive action. The world does not yield to hesitation. It obeys certainty. The calm, self-governed mind moves with quiet precision while others scatter in noise. True initiative is not frenzy, but focus born from silence, executed with exactness. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, for the job can be lost, but mastery cannot. Everything external is temporary. Only character endures. You are not paid for time, but for the value you bring to time, and that value is the reflection of your consciousness. A single disciplined hour, lived with intent, outweighs a lifetime of distraction. Success is not an event, it is a state of being, the shadow cast by inner order. You do not wait for the world to improve. You improve yourself until the world must reflect it. Every trial is a test of control. Every challenge, a call to calmness. When others break, you must breathe. When others doubt, you must decide. When others react, you must remain sovereign. Do not seek comfort, seek control. Do not chase results, build the cause. Each moment of composure compounds into quiet authority. Each act of order builds invisible wealth. Greatness is not achieved in public, but forged in solitude, through small disciplines repeated without applause. The world bows eventually to those who master themselves, for the man who rules his mind rules his destiny. So remember this truth and let it live in you. When you work on your job, you earn a living, but when you work on yourself, you earn a life. And it is the life of mastery, calm, clear, and unstoppable, that commands all others.